I would call Mr. Giavasis. Sir, would you state your name for the record?
Giavasis.
And are you employed, sir?
I am.
In what capacity?
I'm the clerk of the Canton Municipal Court.
And do you hold any other offices in any political parties?
I do.
Which is?
I am the chairman of the Stark County Democratic Party.
And how long have you been that?
Too long. Since last June.
And prior to that, did you hold any offices in the party or any of its affiliates?
I was an executive committee member for several years and member of some various clubs, I would imagine.
And how long have you been involved in Democratic Party politics?
About 29 years.
And in the course of those 29 years, have you had the opportunity to work with Tom Bernabei, the public servant?
I have.
And have you ever seen him act out of vengeance in political activity?
Objection. Sustained.
Have you ever seen Mr. Bernabei, how would you characterize Mr. Bernabei's motivations in his discharge of his public duties?
Objection. Sustained.
Have you had the opportunity to view Mr. Bernabei and his interactions with the mayor of Canton Municipality?
Not that I can recall.
Do you have any personal knowledge? You've dealt with Mr. Healy, as the Canton mayor, have you not?
I have.
Do you have any personal knowledge that would suggest that Mr. Bernabei is motivated to run for mayor of Canton out of personal grudge with Mr. Healy?
I would not.
Did Mr. Bernabei ever discuss the personal grudge?
No, not a personal grudge.
Ever acted in a way that to your mind is consistent with the personal grudge?
No.
Were you a friend of Mr. Bernabei, an associate of Mr. Bernabei when he was fired from the safety director's job?
I was.
How did he take it?
I couldn't say how he took it.
Did he complain about it?
Not to me.
Did he grouse about it?
I didn't hear him do that.
Did you hear from anyone that he had?
I heard some of his friends razzing him about it, but other than that,
Did you hear that he went golfing after it happened?
I did not.
Did he take that razzing in good nature?
Knowing him, he probably responded.
In good fun?
Yes, I would say.
Has he discussed with you his decision to disaffiliate with the party?
He has.
Did he discuss that decision with you prior to his filing petitions as an independent member of the mayor of Canton?
He did.
When did that discussion take
I
place?
believe it was 29th of April, or 30.
Did you have a discussion at some length?
It was half an hour or so.
Had he yet come to a final conclusion about his intentions on the 29th of April?
He had not.
Did he seem torn?
He explained what he was contemplating, and we discussed, first of all, the debate that had taken place and how the race was unfolding, that race and some other ones, and then later led into what he was contemplating.
Did the debate seem to have made a great impression on him?
The debate,
Yes.
he said that it had.
Okay. And to your recollection, what impression had the debate made upon him?
He was disappointed in the debate. He said he was driving around town listening to it on his car radio and was displeased.
And what was the nature of his disappointment?
I can't remember specifics as to what specific debate questions caused his disappointment, but he did relate to me that he was disappointed.
Fair to say that he expressed being underwhelmed with the quality of candidates?
Yes.
Fair to say that he thought he might be able to do better if he threw his hat in the ring?
He didn't put it quite that way, but he was contemplating doing that and looking at what he would have to do in order for that to happen.
Did it seem like this was something about which he was circumspect?
He wasn't sure.
Was he taking it lightly?
He said he was reading, and we were in the midst of the end of a primary cycle with two Democratic candidates who were running against each other, and to hear this was something that, was not even really want to hear it at that time.
And does Mr. Bernabei, the man in your dealings with him, whose political motivations would be based on anything other than public service?
Objection. Sustained.
Did he discuss with you what steps would be necessary or satisfactory to disaffiliate himself with the party?
He mentioned a few things.
What did he mention?
Resigning from Democratic Association was one.
Did you give him any advice as to what would be an acceptable or proper course of conduct?
I don't recall doing that.
Did he seek your advice?
As far as disassociation,
Yes, sir.
not that I recall.
Did you form an opinion as to whether or not he was trying to figure out what he needed to do in order to properly check the disassociation
I think
box?
he was trying to figure out that it was not a simple process, that it was something that he had taken very seriously in the past and was trying to weigh whether or not he wanted to do something like that.
Did it seem to you that he understood that it would be an irrevocable decision?
That was clear.
And a weighty decision?
Yes.
And did anything in that conversation suggest to you that it was something that he was trying to do as a ruse, as a scheme, in bad faith, anything like that?
As a scheme,
Yes, sir. Some sort of a trick to get out and come back?
no, I don't recall any discussion to that nature.
Thank you, sir.
You've heard or seen the media reports where Mr. Bernabei has described himself as a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. Do you believe that that was an apt and accurate description based upon your knowledge of him?
I do.
And you just talked, and you said that on or about April 30th or so, you had a discussion with Mr. Bernabei as to how the race was unfolding. And that's the race between Mr. Perez and Mayor Healy.
That race, the judicial race, Mr. Gardego primary as well.
And with regard to how the mayor's race was unfolding, what were the comments that Mr. Bernabei made?
Direct comments. He was displeased with the debate, I think with the quality of the candidates, with the answers. We talked about the format of the debate. It was a difficult format to listen to over the radio because of the lengthy commercials. They would ask a question and come back. So we talked a little bit about that as well.
Okay. And with regard to the race unfolding, did you and he discuss who apparently you thought or he thought was going to win the mayor's primary race?
No, well, not directly. I mean, we both had opinions as to who would win and why, and mistakes that were made in the campaign and so forth. But that was leading up to our discussion.
Okay. And what was the opinion of Mr. Bernabei with regard to who he thought was going to win the mayor's primary race?
Well, I think he thought whoever won was a loss. I don't know if that's a direct quote, but I'm paraphrasing.
Okay. And you state that based upon his disappointment with the debate. That's
correct.
And you would agree that Mr. Bernabei has known and worked with Mr. Perez and Mayor Healy for a number of years. Knows them both well. You know them both well.
Yes.
You listened to the debate. Did anything about that debate startle or surprise you or cause you to think differently of Mr. Perez or Mayor Healy?
No, not think differently of them. No. They were both did not engage each other during the debate.
And so after listening to that debate, you didn't change your opinion of the competency of either Mr. Perez or Mr. Healy?
No.
Did you see anything in that debate that would cause a serious person, serious politician, who knew Mr. Healy and Mr. Perez for years or decades to say, aha, this has changed my whole opinion on them. I can't countenance them being a mayor. Anything like that happen as you listen to it?
No.
I've had nothing to do.
Mr. Giavasis, I'd like to just ask you some questions about handicapping the mayoral primary between Mr. Perez and Mayor Healy. As party chairman, and as somebody who's been involved in party politics for 30 years, you do form opinions as to what a given candidate's chances are in the primary and the general election. That comes with the territory, doesn't it?
It does.
Let me ask you this. In your opinion, would Tom Bernabei have stood a better chance of being elected mayor if he'd gone through the primary process, or if he ran as an independent?
Objection.
You opened the door to horse races. I want to hear what the horse says.
Wow. Can you rephrase?
Sure. You handicapped races.
Right.
Mr. Bernabei's running as an independent. Do you like his odds better as an independent of ending up as the mayor, or had he run in the primary? What do you think would have been the surer route to the mayoralty?
Objection against speculation.
That's hard to say, simply because of turnout, and that's part of what we talked about. I mean, the turnout in Canton was abysmal. It was 10%, I think, ultimately, and that was prior to the fact that we knew it was going to be low. It's hard for me to speculate as to whether he would have done better in the primary or the general election. I can tell you that his the opponent, the unsuccessful opponent to Mayor Healy, Mr. Perez, feels as though he would have been a better candidate in the general election as opposed to the primary, and is upset over the fact that somebody not doing it that way and being able to do it that way.
So let me ask you this question. You agree with me that a candidate who runs on the ticket of a major political party enjoys advantages that an independent does not?
Oh, in a primary?
No, in the general election.
I guess it depends on the circumstance, but yes, that's fair to say.
They have an apparatus and a machine and an infrastructure behind them that an independent doesn't usually have.
Correct. That's correct.
And you would also agree with me that Tom Bernabei, who's been active in politics here for 40 years, stood a fair chance of winning the primary if he'd thrown his hat in. He's a credible candidate.
He's a credible candidate.
One last thing. You didn't hear anything in the Perez and Healy debate that pushed you over the edge and said, I can't countenance this. You've already testified to that, right?
I'm sorry.
And Mr. Flackis threw up his hands and says, I can't countenance these men running for mayor. You didn't hear anything that pushed you past your tipping point.
No, they were just they just did not engage each other.
But you'll agree with me that the decision of when somebody's had enough in matters personal and matters political is a subjective decision that every man makes for himself.
I guess in any subject that we're
And that different men have different tipping points when it comes to the point where they're no longer willing to stand the status quo and feel the need to do something about it. And Tom Bernabei has his own.
as everyone knows, I guess.
Thank you.
You were just asked questions with regard to the advantages that a candidate from a political party has as opposed to an independent candidate. And that door was opened by this counselor here. To the panel, I would respectfully suggest that part of the analysis and the testimony from
Objection. Is this a question?
I'm making-
It's a speech. I haven't heard of this.
I'm asking it at this point to the panel that Dr. Klarner was specifically going to address the issue that was raised by counsel with regard to the effect of spoilers, the effect of candidates who declared as independents who had previously been part of a major campaign. There's study, there's empirical data. Apparently, counsel, over my objection, Elizabeth thought this was relevant. I would ask that at the conclusion of their case, that we be permitted to call Dr. Kleiner to testify from an expert's perspective rather than the speculation of a non-expert as to the effect of this, because this is critical. They opened the door, and over my objection. So I will go on with the with the cross of Mr. Giavasis, but I wanted to make that now in the context of his testimony, which was elicited by counsel.
May I speak to that just momentarily? No, not right now. Later? Sure. Thanks.
With regard to your discussions with Mr. Bernabei and how it in further detail, would it be fair to say that you were shocked by this man that you knew to be a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat? You were shocked by the things that he was starting to tell you?
Shocked. I had heard some, I guess, people saying that he was contemplating it, so I wasn't completely taken by surprise.
Had you not heard that from whatever other source, you would have been shocked?
Coming from him, yes, he's been a Democrat for quite a long time. He and I were appointed by the same individual, and he's been a long-standing Democrat for years.
Do you agree with what Mr. Bernabei is attempting to do?
I do not,
Why?
because I believe that he is I question the timing of the debate. The same debate would have been heard early on when he still had time to file as a Democrat. Would we be sitting here? That would be my only question.
You told him you disagree?
Not at that initial meeting. I told him that I disagreed on the telephone afterwards.
Do you believe that what Mr. Bernabei is trying to do harms the electoral process in this community, not only for Democrats, but for Republicans?
Objection, relevance. Sustained.
Have nothing further.